All right. He's never told me to shut up, Brian. Okay, so anyway, I want to just tell you what I told my pastor the day that I kind of just opened everything up to him. And it's like and I got to start at birth because everything for me started at birth. My mom was 14 years old when she had me. I was her second child. And I don't know if there's a 14-year-old in the room, but the first time I told this story and that 14-year-old girl was sitting in the room, I was shocked because I thought, you know what, you're so young. And my mom was so young. She had my sister when she was 13. She ended up pregnant with me when my sister was 2 months old. She finds out she's pregnant again, but what happened during that whole time for her is, for whatever reason, my dad and her decided to get married. He quit school. My mom ended up in high school when she was 12. She just was pushed up a few grades. My dad was a sophomore, he was 15. They both quit school. They ended up getting married, and my dad couldn't keep a job. He was drinking in high school. Raise your hand if you drank in high school. Okay, so he was drinking in high school, and when he all of a sudden was on his own and nobody was monitoring him, then he ended up drinking more. As my mom got more and more pregnant, he realized that he didn't like fat women, and he ended up beating her up, and he became very abusive and very, he just was abusive, very violent towards her. So by the time my sister was born, she was in a depression. When my sister was 2 months old, she found out she was pregnant again, and she said, I am not doing this again. And she tried everything. She took an overdose of pills. She got in hot baths. Somebody said if you can get in really hot water, you can miscarriage, and she tried to do that. Someone else said if you can put sharp objects up inside you and actually get the sac, you can miscarriage that way. She tried to do that. It just cut herself up. And but at 14, I think that what she shared with me later on in my life is she tried all kinds of things. Ended up not miscarrying, and I'm grateful for that. I just got to say that. Oh, Brad's here. So she ended up in the hospital at 14. She said, I didn't even want to name you. They were coming in and saying, you know what, you got to put a name on the birth certificate. And she said, I was afraid if I put a name on there that I would have to take you home. And it was just, she said, I was depressed, I was angry, I didn't want to have this child, everything was falling apart. They finally, they came in with a birth certificate one time, and I just think this was such a cool thing. They came in and they said, you have to put some information on this. And she said, I was watching, it was 1955, so just for anybody that wants to figure that out, I'll give you a minute. All right. So in 1955, there was a series on, and in the series there was a gambling boat that went down this river, and the gambling boat was called the CHERI. And so my mom said, just put that on there. And so it was named after a tugboat in a gambling series. And, but years later, and asked me about years later, somebody gave me a card of what my name meant, and asked me about that later. But anyhow, so I went home from the hospital. My mom had 5 kids before she was 21 years old. So she had one after another after another. My dad got more and more abusive towards her, and he started to molest us, I think, from the time that we got home from the hospital. He was caught the first time molesting me when I was 3 months old. I don't know. I had never had a home where that wasn't a part of the whole thing. I remember being really small and having the 3 of us girls just kind of lined up, and he would just molest us side by side. We never spoke about that until I got into my own healing when I was in my 30s. But our home was very, when somebody says dysfunctional, I want to grab them by the throat and just throw them down, and I know that's not appropriate. But I think dysfunctional just sounds so nice. Do you know what I don't know if anybody knows what I mean when they come from those homes. It's that you want a different word. I want a word that reflects some of the stuff that I saw. I used to watch my dad take my mom's face and bash her face into a coffee table and just have blood everywhere. And we would come to rescue her, and they would tell us, it's none of your business, go to your room. And I remember just thinking, it feels like my business, because I think you're going to kill her. And we were really tiny during that time. My mom got more and more depressed. She got more and more withdrawn. She would say stuff to me like, you know what, if it wasn't for you, my life would have been okay. You know what I mean? And I remember being tiny thinking, what does that mean? because I don't know what that means. And it usually when she was mad or I want to be held, I would come up to her and say, would you, I want to be held, or I want to sing a song, and I want you to tell me I'm cute or something. And I remember 3 and 4 years old, and she would just tell me, why do you always hang on me? Why are you always hanging on me? And I remember a lot of times going back into the room, standing in front of a mirror. And this is kind of embarrassing to say, but standing in front of a mirror and trying to figure out, how can I be cute enough or funny enough or sing good enough for her to let me sit next to her? Because my only goal as a child was, I want to sit next to you. It's funny, when I said that the last time, I've never thought of that. I felt the same way when I came into the church. Just please let me sit next to you. But anyhow, so my dad got kicked out when I was 4 years old. Finally, they caught him a number of times with us. He was getting more and more out of control in his alcoholism and drugs and beating her. So they kicked him out, and my mom ended up moving a bartender in. And if you want to have a great time, just marry a bartender. Or just move him in for a while. He was funny. He would come home, he'd just done some lines of, at that time they didn't have meth. But he'd send the lines of speed, and he drank, and he would come home at 2, 3 in the morning and say, "Hey, you guys sleeping? Want to get up on a party?" And we'd be like, "Hey!" And we would get up and literally dance around the house. And I mean, he would just, he played piano, and he liked to sing. And so, I mean, we would sing and run around. And my mom worked night shifts, and so she would be gone to work at like 9 o'clock. He would come home from work at 2 or 3 in the morning. And so she had no idea we would be out partying all night long. He taught us a few things that were just a blast. One of them is, has anybody had a pee fight? You have? I love you. Where you stick green peas up your nose and shoot them at each other? Oh. Brad, did you use a straw? Yeah. And you know what? That's because you're from a normal household. We just used our nose, and I continue to do that in my drug use. No.